How many times have you and your partner had fights like this? You always leave the dishes for me. That's not what we agreed on. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. Maybe it starts small, a chore left undone, a plan forgotten, a tone that hit the wrong note. And before you know it, you're in that same argument you've had dozens of times before, and you don't know how to stop. In this video, I'm going to show you what's exactly driving those same old fights, and more importantly, what to do when you find yourself stuck in one again. Hello, I'm Dr. Lynyetta Willis, psychologist and family coach. I help parents and couples break unhelpful relationship patterns so they can stop power struggling and fighting and start creating the family they wish they had growing up. If you found yourself asking, how did we end up here again after that same fight with your partner? You are not alone. And I have an answer. The problem is, what you're fighting about isn't really what you're fighting about. In most relationships, it's not just about what was said or what didn't get done, it's the meaning we attach to it. What I call the stories in your head. The dishes weren't done. The story in your head is, he doesn't care about my time. And that is what you're fighting about. Plans change last minute. Story in your head is, she never listens. I'm always the one adapting. And that is what you're fighting about. Right? They use that tone again. Story in your head is, they're picking a fight. They don't respect me. And that is what you're fighting about. See how that works? We tell ourselves stories about what our partner's actions mean. And then we respond not to our partner, but to the version of the story that we've created in our heads. This is not your fault. Our brains are wired to fill in the blanks, especially when something feels unclear or emotionally loaded. It's a survival mechanism that we developed to keep us safe from lions that wanted to eat us. Your mind is trying to sense a perceived threat before it gets worse. In relationships, that protective mechanism can backfire because there's no lion. And instead of protecting you, that survival mechanism pulls you in to the same reaction loop. Same fight, same ending, same disconnection, same stable misery. Once you spot the story in your head, you can interrupt it. You can shift the conversation, even if the fight has already started. That's what my story stopper strategy is about. It's a simple 3-step process that I teach my private and group clients to catch that moment when the conflict starts to take over so they can choose a different path forward. Before we dive in, you do not want to miss the end of this video where I'm going to share with you some powerful one-phrase statements. These statements are simple but can lower the tension in the room when you're having an argument with your partner. These will actually help you hear each other instead of just reacting. Step 1 of the story stopper strategy. Notice the alarm bells. Pay attention to the first signs that you're shifting from connection to conflict. This could be a sensation in your body, an emotion, a behavior, or something in your partner's reaction. These signals are your early warning system, and when you catch them, you have a chance to shift how you respond before the fight escalates. When you don't use your early warning system, you'll move straight into defensive mode and react out of habit instead of choosing your response. An early warning sign might be a sensation: tightness in your chest, shoulders, clenched jaw, stomach turning, heat rising, or maybe you notice your emotions. Frustration sets in, irritation, resentment, anxiety. Maybe the early warning signs that you notice are behaviors. Do you get quiet? Do you shut down? Lash out? Get louder? Do you interrupt? Another alarm bell or early warning sign might be that you notice your partner's reaction. Do you notice their tone change, their body tense, or that they withdraw or push back? Like for me, I notice Patrick's lips purse and he looks to the side. He goes, Drop in the comments below. What's the first thing you notice when you start feeling defensive or you go from feeling connected to your partner to feeling disconnected? Is it a sensation, an emotion, a behavior, yours or theirs? The more comments we get down below, the more ideas we may not have realized before. Please comment, add to the discussion below. Step 2, identify the story in your head about your partner. Once you notice an alarm bell, ask yourself, what is the story in my head right now about my partner? When we feel defensive, hurt, or angry, we go into self-protection mode. This is often accompanied by stories we automatically create about our partner, their thoughts, feelings, motivations. And every single one is usually negative. Again, not a judgment. It makes sense. If a lion was chasing you, you're not going to stop and be like, oh, you have such a beautiful, thick, flowing mane. Gorgeous. Can I touch it? That's not what you're going to do. You're going to call Mufasa a demon and curse him to Hades. So it makes sense that we do this. The downside to these protective stories is that when you assume the worst about your partner, you treat them like an enemy. And nobody wants to sleep with the enemy. If you don't check the story in your head, you're going to keep reacting to them and not to your actual partner. Some common protective stories we might say, they don't respect me. They never listen. They just want to win. They're being selfish. They don't care about how I feel. Watch out for those stories. Step 3, share the story in your head instead of stating it as a fact. Share it in a way that invites clarity and connection. There is a powerful phrase I encourage all of my clients to use. And when they use it, seriously has the power to shift everything. That phrase is, the story in my head is. This small phrase, put before you state the fact, i.e., Patrick's wrong, I'm right, turns conflicts into conversation because it gives your partner a chance to correct any misinterpretations before the fight continues to escalate. It also reminds you that what you're thinking is just a story and not necessarily a proven fact. For example, you don't care about my feelings. Instead of saying that, you might say, the story in my head is you don't care about my feelings, or you're dismissing my feelings on purpose. Is that your intention? Instead of saying, you don't care about my needs, try, the story in my head right now is you don't care about my needs, or you don't care about this issue as much as I do. Can you help me see where I'm wrong? Instead of, you don't want to spend time with me, or you're not attracted to me. The story in my head is, you don't want to spend time with me. The story in my head is, you're not attracted to me anymore. The other thing that it adds in is a tiny bit of vulnerability without feeling too exposed. Because you're saying literally the same thing. You're just adding the story in my head is. Okay. This helps your partner make sense of your reaction. You're crying because they were 15 minutes late to dinner. That doesn't make sense to them, but it makes more sense if the story in your head is that being with your family isn't as important as being with your friends. Now the tears make a little bit more sense. If you don't use this phrase, you risk continuing to respond as if your assumption is the truth, which locks you both into defense mode, trying to prove why your position is better, stronger, more true. Comment story below if you're ready to try this. Are you going to do it with me? The story in my head is, it really is a game changer. I can see Patrick softening when I say it. Once you get in the habit, you'll start to realize, oh, when my partner does that, they're trying. When I do that, I'm trying. It allows you to replace assumptions with an honest conversation. So remember, at the end of the day, most conflicts, they're not about what's actually happening. They're about the story we tell ourselves about what is happening. You shift the story, you stop the spiral. Okay, at the beginning, I told you that if you stuck with me, I promised to share some one-sentence phrases that can lower tension and shift the moment so you and your partner can hear each other instead of reacting. But before we dive into that, I want to invite you to head to the description to download your personal story stopper strategy guide so that you'll have the exact steps that you need to disrupt the cycle, even after the argument's already started. Also, if you're tired of navigating this alone, you'll find details down there about my couples programs for individual couples and small groups. I call this bonus tip the mic check method because just like we test a mic before a performance, mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's about checking the message that you're receiving from your partner before you respond. Now, with my private clients and my group couples, we dive deeper into this method because there's a whole process behind it. You stop talking past each other and start feeling heard, respected, and on the same team again. Now, while I don't have time to share the entire method, just using the few phrases that I'm about to share can shift the energy of your conversation in seconds. In the mic check method, instead of assuming the worst, we pause and we check the message by saying some really powerful statements or questions. And here are some examples. Let me reflect this back to you to see if I've got it right. I want to stay connected. What do you really need me to hear right now? I know we don't want to waste energy fighting. Can we slow it down so I can understand? Is this one of those moments where I'm filling in the blanks wrong? Here's what I'm thinking you're saying. Tell me where I'm wrong. Let's come back to the heart of this. What do you need me most to understand right now? Statements such as these lower defensiveness and turn conflict into connection. Instead of reacting to what you think they meant, you're making sure you're hearing what they said using words designed to foster connection in the brain. Questions in general slow the emotional part of your brain and activate the thinking part. So if someone asks you, "What are you eating for dinner?" you automatically think. When you're thinking, you're less likely to react. So what I encourage you to do is write these down and put them somewhere where you can grab them fast. And during your next argument or disagreement, try them out. Now that you have a strategy to stop the stories that hijack your brain and relationship, you might be wondering, okay, but Dr. L, what if my partner still doesn't listen or acknowledge my perspective? Or what if we've tried other communication strategies and they don't work? That's exactly what we're tackling in the next video. If you've tried communication tools and don't get what you expect, the real issue may not be a communication one at all. Click here or the link in the description to uncover the real issue and how to deal with it so you and your partner can get on the same page and really feel that connection you both crave. Until next time.